Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Elise Arthurs, and I'm the Director of Partner Marketing at RightScale. We're excited to have you on the webinar today to talk about video encoding on the cloud. We'll start the webinar with a couple of polls, and then that gives us the ability to find out a little bit more about our audience today. So we'll get started with the polls. This question's about whether or not you're using the cloud today, and it's about if you're using the cloud in the infrastructure as a service type of model. So for example, Amazon EC2 or Rackspace. So if you could go ahead and select your answer, we'll see how many of you are actually using the cloud today with some active projects. Looks like we've got our answers here. And it looks like a good portion of you aren't yet using the cloud, but some of you are starting to explore using it, and we've got about a quarter here that are actually up and running with some serious projects. Great. Thanks for that info. Now we'll do a second poll, and this is about why you're looking for a video encoding solution on the cloud. If you can take a moment to answer those questions, that would be great. Okay, it looks like we've got our answers coming in here. Pretty evenly spread across the reasons why people are looking to take video encoding to the cloud. But the biggest driver looks like you want to be able to manage unpredictable loads easier. Okay, good. Well, I think we'll be able to give you good information around those interest areas. So I'm going to now do a little house cleaning items. We've got the ability to answer your questions live during the course of the entire webinar. So if you can ask us your questions using the GoToWebinar control panel, we'll answer them. We've got people from all of the companies online answering questions, so please go ahead and submit those as you have them. And now I'd like to go ahead and introduce our speakers today on the webinar. We've got Mike Flathers, who is from Sorensen Media. He's their CTO, and he'll take us actually through the architecture and then the demo. And he's joined by Kirk Punches, the Vice President of Business Development at Sorensen Media. And we also have Yuri Budnik from RightScale. He's the Director of the ISV program. And then Steve Polini from Aspera. So you've got representatives from all the companies here to be able to answer your questions and take you through how we contribute to this joint solution. And then also on our Q&A line, as I mentioned, we've got folks who are available to take questions during the course of the entire webinar, as well as we'll have a live Q&A at the end. John Newton from RightScale will be answering questions, as well as Kobe Rich from Sorensen Media, and then Steve from Aspera will also take your questions. So make sure to send those over. And now on to the agenda. So we've got, I think, a really good lineup for you today in terms of setting up what's happening in the market around video encoding. So Kirk will take us through that, and he'll also talk about how you should be thinking about strategy-wise when to use public cloud or on-premise or through an overview of the encoding servers and how they scale on the cloud. And then Mike will start the live demo, and then we'll go into a live Q&A at the end. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kirk, VP of Business Development at Sorensen Media.
Thanks, Elise. So I appreciate everyone joining us today for the webinar, and we obviously feel pretty strongly about video encoding, and certainly video encoding in the cloud. And, you know, when you are evaluating encoding and how to encode today, you know, there's certainly a lot to consider. As you can imagine, we spend a lot of time talking with companies of all different sizes, and it's, I guess one of the things I would say is, who thinks encoding is becoming less complicated? I certainly don't. There's a lot to consider, and if you start thinking about some of the trending stories out there, it really highlights that there are more devices than ever, certainly more renditions as a result of those different devices, meaning more video formats that you have to create to support those devices. And then certainly more delivery options. And just a couple of quick examples. So if anyone was at the Consumer Electronics Show in January, I think at last count there were 70+ new tablets announced. And when you start looking at all of those new tablets on top of all the existing mobile devices, on top of all the different devices that you need to deliver video content to, it's just growing in complexity, the amount of video encoding, transcoding that has to be done. Some of us were at Mobile World Congress last week, and I believe HTC alone announced 5 new Android phones. And of course, one Android is not necessarily like another, and they do require some fine-tuning as it relates to presenting video that's optimized for a particular device. And so, again, there's just more and more formats that you have to consider to support all these new devices. And back to my original comment, the need for encoding is definitely accelerating. It's not declining. So, next slide, please. And so, when you look at all these different devices, what that means is you've got all these formats that you have to take into consideration. And this is by no means a complete list, but just look at this. You've got Flash, QuickTime, MPEG, all the MPEG formats, on and on and on. And just as an example, when you start thinking about encoding, if anyone paid attention to Google, I'm sure you do, you saw that they were dropping support for H.264 within Chrome to support their own open standard WebM. And so think about all that legacy content that's out there now that needs to be transcoded from H.264 into WebM just to support users using Chrome. Then think about companies like Netflix that are really ahead of the curve. They're trying to deliver content to all these different devices. And there was a presentation that was out in the last few months, and it talked about that they're creating literally 100 different permutations of that original source file to deliver content across all these different devices. And you don't even have to be Netflix. We are seeing companies that we're talking to today that, I'll give you one example. We're working with a customer right now, and originally they came to us and said, well, we want to basically deliver content in basically 8 different renditions. And as we started digging deeper and looking at all the different devices they're trying to deliver content to, the list went from 8 renditions by the time we were done up to 70, and that was just to hit some sort of the basic devices that they want to support. And so you start thinking about different data rates, different frame sizes, different formats for all those different devices. Again, that's a lot of encoding that has to be done. So next slide, please. And if formats and devices didn't complicate your life enough, now you start thinking about how do you deliver the best user experience for video playback. And that gets into things like adaptive. And there isn't even just one flavor of adaptive. You've got Apple, Microsoft, Adobe, creating their own flavors of adaptive delivery to support if I'm on a 3G connection or if I'm on Wi-Fi, obviously, you're going to need to support different environments to provide the best possible playback experience. And so, again, my point here is that you're creating a lot of different videos to support adaptive delivery, and then you start complicating things further if you want to support more than one adaptive format. And the needs around encoding just grow and grow and grow. And so next slide, please. And really the point here is that, user experience matters. And if you start thinking about this, fundamental to the encoding value proposition is really how do you deliver the highest quality in the smallest relative bit rate? Because, bandwidth and storage, they're just not unlimited. And so I like to think about this in the following way. How much time do you spend in your organization on the post-production process, cameras, lighting equipment, editing, or maybe you're just getting content that's been created, it's high quality, and then it's all ruined by a poor user experience because that format doesn't work on a given device, the frame size is wrong, you're not supporting adaptive, so there's a lot of buffering occurring. The user experience matters, and what you do for creating content for a 50-inch television experience is obviously completely different than delivering that same video to an iPhone. So things like adaptive can certainly solve for that user experience. But it just means that all these variable conditions, you need to stop and think about who are you trying to reach as an audience, what are those different devices, and definitely one size does not fit all. We just see this literally every day, and we see the complexity of this encoding problem growing. And I'll give you just another example of this. Think about what goes into your encoding profile. There's just so many variables, and I'll just throw a few out at you. Okay, what codec, what encoding profile, what method? Are you doing a single pass encode, two pass, multi-pass? Are you doing variable bitrate, constant bitrate? You know, what frame rate's being used? Again, data rates, frame sizes, aspect ratios, keyframe intervals, all the filters for pre-processing to help that video look pristine, and again, that smallest relative bitrate. There's just a lot to consider. And so next slide, please. And that's really what we're here to talk about today is, you know, sure, you could go out if you want to be the next Netflix, and you could put a lot of time and energy into building out all of your infrastructure, providing dedicated resources to create encoding profiles, install software, manage servers, and keep up with all the latest devices so you're optimizing video. But really our point is, why bother? We've all come together as partners to solve really the hard work and complexity around the spiky nature of video encoding. So when we talk about the solution pack and some of the things that we're going to show you today, and just encoding in the cloud in general, we've really put together all the different components so that you don't have to spend your time and energy focused on building out this environment. You can just plug this in and away you go. And I'll just walk you through some of the key pieces here. So what do you have to do to get video content into the cloud for encoding? Well, you're dealing with large source video files. So you need to ingest that content. Well, how do you get it from point A to point B? That's where Aspera, and certainly we'll talk more about their technology, but just enabling the fast file transfer to get the source video file up into the cloud. Well, once you get it up into the cloud, how do you support turnkey deployments of encoding servers and the automation around bringing those encoding engines up and down, because encoding tends to be very spiky. You're not constantly hitting servers with a steady stream of videos. You have your peaks and valleys. Well, that's where RightScale really empowers the solution pack to scale up and down, makes it very, very simple to deploy. And then, of course, that's all well and good, but how do you keep up with all the different devices and making sure you've got optimized encoding profiles and adjusting to new things as they enter the marketplace in terms of payments? That's where Sorensen Media comes in, and really, leveraging our expertise around encoding profiles and working with device manufacturers and content creators to make sure those presets are optimized for the best performance. So that's what we're excited to show you today and help you understand and start thinking about different ways to support the spiky nature of video encoding and taking advantage of all the things that the cloud can provide. So what I'd like to do now is I want to introduce Yuri Budnick of RightScale to speak more about how the cloud is transforming video encoding, and of course tell you a little bit more about RightScale and their technology. So Yuri, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Kirk. So you're going to see a demo of how the technology actually works in a moment from the CTO from Sorensen. But before we get into that, I want to take a moment to explain to you what we mean when we're talking about the benefits of being able to encode video in the cloud. And it really revolves around the capacity to garner resources as you need them. So you're seeing this diagram on your screen, and it might look like there's a lot going on, but it's actually quite simple. And if you bear with me for a moment, I'll talk through it, and you'll see how the message is actually rather clear and straightforward. Please pay attention first to the gray dotted line diagonally across the middle, going up and to the right. That's really meant to denote your infrastructure requirements over time. Usually when you're planning a project, you need to figure out how much server capacity you're going to need, and almost always that goes up over time. That's what you're predicting your demand on the servers is going to be. However, it's really difficult to predict what the actual demand is going to be, and that's the red line that you see here. Notice that goes both above and below the gray dotted line, the predicted demand. Anybody that's ever run any kind of system will tell you that whatever prediction you make, you're almost guaranteed to be above or below it. You're never going to hit it right. So what do most companies do? They do what you see there on the blue line. That denotes the way that you buy equipment in big lumps, in big tranches. That's what's got that stair-step shape. And you're trying to stay above whatever your predicted demand is going to be, the gray dotted line. And why do companies do this? They do this to stay ahead of demand. That's what you see there with the green vertical line, the opportunity cost. This is really a form of insurance. You buy a lot of servers, a lot of equipment, that it's sitting there mostly idle in case you need it. Economists call it an opportunity cost because they're referring to what else you could have done with that budget, with that capital, perhaps to make you more competitive in the same or different areas. And why do companies do that? They do that to avoid a situation like what you see in the red area, the triangle there, where the actual demand is above the capacity on your infrastructure. So that could be when you have such a big set of jobs waiting in a queue that you can no longer handle them in a timely manner, and you break in either an internal or an external SLA. That's a problem that I'm sure a lot of the people here understand really well. We just wanted to show it in a pretty clear way what the Stark situation is. What we're going to show you in the demo and the capabilities that you see with the cloud is this ability to garner resources on demand. And specifically here, we're talking about being able to provision squeeze servers for video encoding based on the actual workload that you have at that moment. That's why you see here the yellow line, the actual capacity of your systems closely mirror the demand on your systems. They both go up together, but notice they can also both go down together. I've been talking about being able to provision resources on demand, but you can also deprovisioning them. And if you're paying for these servers by the hour, that means that there's no need to be running the same number of servers at 3 in the morning on the weekend, perhaps when there's no jobs to be encoded, as you might need to do during the business day. Anybody with a big enough budget can just buy more servers, and if you have room in your data center, you just keep going up and up and up. The idea here is you can release resources when you're not using them, and therefore you also do not need to pay for them. And again, you'll see some of this in action during the demonstration itself. The actual benefits are rather clear once you see them. Now, this might seem a new and cutting edge for a lot of people. I realize we might have some veterans that know a bit about this technology already. Some of you, perhaps it could be a little newer. Let me assure you that we've been putting this into production systems and into practice for quite a long time in many industries, by the way, not just video encoding. We're all about managing the servers, and I'll speak to that in a moment, but I just want to let you know that anywhere where you need to automate the provisioning of servers, it's something where this cloud technology becomes very useful, and it runs the spectrum from, say, Facebook games that sometimes have tens of millions of daily active players, and you have these wide swings in the capacity they need to have, to pharmaceutical companies that simulate chemical reactions in the cloud, and they need to stand up thousands of servers for just a set amount of time to perform a simulation and then turn them off. It's broadly applicable across many industries. It's really interesting for video encoding because you need a lot of compute power for that, so it makes it useful to be able to garner and put those resources into practice. Now let me speak about RightScale for a moment. RightScale is software to manage clouds. We make it a lot easier and faster to stand up cloud computing environments, in this case with Aspera and Sorensen, automating a whole video encoding professional type of infrastructure that you can quickly stand up. And we also make it dramatically easier to maintain and run those environments day to day via a lot of automation and other things. So for example, this capability of setting some business rules on when and how to auto-provision more squeeze servers to more quickly grab pending jobs waiting in a queue to be encoded. And just to give you a sense of the scale that we're running this at, we passed 2 million servers launched a few weeks ago, actually. When I checked on it yesterday, we're at 2.1 million servers launched, the last 100,000 servers being, I think it was in about 3 weeks or something like that. So we're running this in a rather large scale. We're very comfortable and familiar with either complex environments or environments that scale very big. So now I would like to pass the presentation to Steve Polini from Aspera, who's going to talk to you a little bit about that. Steve, you might be on mute during the presentation, so you need to unmute yourself, please.
How's that?
Now we can hear you.
All right, good. Aspera is a software company that's partnered with Sorensen and RightScale to facilitate the on-demand video encoding in the cloud. We're about 7 years old and have over 1,000 active customers at this point, and we've deployed several thousands of servers and many more thousands of clients around the world. And the reason we're partnered with Sorensen and RightScale is because we specifically solve the issues with wide area networks and the fundamental problems with getting large content to and from cloud-based services. And to do that, our Aspera FAST protocol effectively replaces protocols that people have traditionally used and been frustrated with, like FTP, SCP, HTTP, and rsync. And as such, we also provide secure delivery of the content over the wide area network. And because of the integration we've done with our partners here, we're basically being offered as a seamless piece of the technology that enables the cloud computing platform on top of which Sorensen runs and then RightScale manages, so that it appears and behaves almost like it was part of your LAN environment. So whether you're, it makes it, the difference is that as you would traditionally have the servers within your own data center be operating on the LAN, they can be tens, hundreds, or thousands of miles away, and the Aspera software makes it behave just like it was in your own facility. So basically what we're doing is we eliminate the wide area network issues with respect to moving the data in and out of cloud services. And what happens as a result is that
Hey, Steve, we lost you. This is Jerry speaking. Steve, we cannot hear you right now. Are we getting anything from Steve? Well, Steve, we might need to come back to you. I think what we're going to do right now is take the presentation forward to the next slide from Sorensen. And when we can recover your audio, we're going to... Oh, there you are, Steve. Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
We lost about the last 30 seconds of what you said. The audio cut out.
Oh, you did? Oh, sorry to hear that. Am I coming through now?
You are now, loud and clear.
All right. I'm not sure. We must have some network issues here. Unfortunately, we don't solve the voice over IP issue. Basically, the last 30 seconds, what I was sharing is that, by partnering with Sorensen and RightScale, it allows this service on the cloud to behave as though it were part of your LAN environment. So whether you've got the servers traditionally, which would be deployed either locally or remotely, now they can be in the cloud and they're going to operate as though they were part of your LAN, because you don't have those data movement issues, which happen to, which are related to packet losses and high round trip times with a, with a facility that's not co-located. So we're very excited about this. We've got, our customers include all the major Hollywood studios and global broadcasters who are using Aspera software to move the content around the world. And we're excited about the cloud implementations that are happening these days, because now we can provide that ability to eliminate the WAN as a bottleneck and accelerate your production and delivery cycles. So with that, I'll hand it back to Kirk.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve. So a little bit about Sorensen Media. We're really focused as a company on providing the highest quality differentiated video solutions. And a lot of people know of Sorensen Media because of some of the things in our past, and we've really been a part of the mainstreaming of internet video literally since day one. And so we started as a company focused on codec development. So you might be familiar with us because we empowered video playback by licensing our codecs to Apple for QuickTime, and then subsequently developed the Spark codec, which was licensed to Macromedia, which is now Adobe for Flash. And then YouTube used our Spark codec for encoding for many, many years. So we're internationally recognized, we're trusted, we're an award-winning brand, and we have a portfolio of best-in-class products, and that's everything from Squeeze, which is our award-winning desktop video application. We've got Squeeze Server, which is being utilized in the solution pack that we're here talking about today. And then we provide a lot of different components, but at the end of the day, it's all about empowering you to plug our video encoding transcoding technology into your workflow to solve, all the hard work and complexities that exist there. And so we've been around for the last 15 years, been global partners with some of the top brands out there, everyone from Google, Apple, Adobe, to YouTube, as I mentioned earlier. And then we license our technology to a number of different folks that you can see on the screen here. So what we've put together in the solution pack, again, is really about taking our encoding expertise, our expertise around pre-processing to provide the highest possible quality and the smallest relative bit rate. And so that's a little bit about us, but I want to talk more about the strategy side and share some insights that we've seen related to video encoding and taking advantage of the cloud. So next slide, please. So one of the things that we see evolving is there's several different types of implementations. And I just want to make sure we cover a few of these today. So certainly a lot of you out there already are exploring cloud-only encoding, and we're certainly going to demonstrate that here today. But that's not the only way. With cloud encoding, really what you're doing is leveraging the public cloud. That could be our partners at Amazon Web Services, or certainly other providers such as Rackspace that empower you to take that content, outsource it outside of your local environment, push it up to the cloud, and then support all of the encoding using servers in the cloud and then push that content out to its final destination. There's also hybrid encoding, and that could be a combination of on-premise, so taking advantage of existing hardware that you have within your facilities, installing Squeeze Server, for example, on those servers, doing encoding within your local environment, and then bursting out to the cloud for excess capacity when you reach your physical capacity or failover combination of both. And the last one is what we call more of a hybrid cloud, and we're seeing more and more implementations of this, and that's just a combination of a private and public cloud so that you can really get the best of both worlds. And our partners at RightScale make this very, very simple to configure this type of environment where you can virtualize your physical infrastructure, bring machines up and down, and then burst out to the public cloud as you need additional capacity. And so there really isn't one way to do this. It's really about evaluating what sort of deployment you need, what sort of existing technology you have on premise, and how you want to take advantage of different cloud deployments to solve the spiky nature of video encoding. And as we start thinking about some of the advantages of cloud encoding, really a lot of this is just overall advantages of the cloud in general. So the biggest one, and I think many of you, this is why you're here today, is how can we move from buying more servers, installing software, deploying resources in-house to manage all of this, and just take advantage of on-demand computing. So that's really about how do you reduce your CapEx and OpEx. And so when you start thinking about how the cloud and cloud encoding can benefit you, this is really powerful because when you sort of the old way of supporting encoding, you had to think about what is my worst possible scenario, forecasting what my peaks might be, buying enough servers, again, installing enough software, deploying all of those resources for what you think might happen. Well, with cloud and cloud encoding, you can eliminate all of that. You can simply use what you need to use on demand, bring those servers up, encode the files that you need to encode, bring those servers back down, and really reduce your CapEx. And likewise, in terms of operating expenses, if you don't have to deploy resources to manage servers, install software, make sure the software is up to date, and simply offload that to the cloud, bring those servers up on demand, offload the work of supporting new formats, making sure the software is up to date, you're really going to see a significant cost savings on the OpEx side as well. And when it comes to scalability and elasticity, obviously this is one of the big benefits of the cloud. Trying to go out and quickly buy a new server and get the software installed to support a big encoding project isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. If you can leverage the cloud and bring those servers up on demand, you've got virtually unlimited scalability and elasticity. So, you know, if you need to bring up an array of 100 servers for an hour or several hours, it's really straightforward to do. And what we've empowered through the solution pack is automating that process. And we'll talk about more of this as we go through the demo, but being able to automate the process around business logic to bring servers up and down on demand really does give you scalability that just doesn't exist in an on-premise deployment. You know, really other benefits of cloud encoding are performance, you know, and the flexibility and the fast deployment. You know, it's just so much easier to take what we've architected and put together through this joint partnership, plug it into your workflow, set up your encoding profiles, and just let it go. It's a much easier endeavor than the past, like I said, where you're installing software on servers, configuring all of this, and then trying to manage it moving forward. We make it very, very simple to add new presets. We'll show you how simple it is, in fact, just to plug in new presets to support new devices that they hit the marketplace. And that's really the story here is, again, it's not becoming less complex. There's more and more transcoding happening out there, and you have to be able to react quickly to support the new devices. And I'll give you just one example. You know, when Google announced WebM last May at Google I/O, Sorensen was there to support the launch. We already had the encoding profiles. We already had full support in our encoding engine. And deployed in the cloud, it just makes it very simple to select the encoding profile. It's there. You're up and running. You don't have to really spend any time or energy thinking about supporting a new format to supporting new devices that enters the marketplace. So it just gives you access to all the innovation and really does future-proof the platform so that, you know, you can rest assured that as you need to support those new devices, it's just there. We're waiting in the wings to bring up a new codec, new encoding profile, and you can put your time and energy into other things that are core to your operation. So if I could get the next slide, please. This kind of brings us back to the slide that you saw earlier and the architecture of the solution pack. So just to get you thinking about what we're going to show you in the demo, the concept here is taking advantage of the cloud so we can ingest files, utilize Aspera's fast technology to take advantage of bandwidth that you have available to quickly upload those large source files to the cloud, take advantage of RightScale and their best practice around server deployment, and then the business logic to automate bringing those encoding engines up and down so that if you've got 100, 1,000 files, you're bringing an array of servers up to support all of the different encoding profiles you need for all the different devices and screens you're trying to reach. So it's a very scalable, easy to deploy solution pack that we've created, and that's kind of a nice segue into talking more about the underlying technology and architecture, and then jump into an actual demo. So what I'd like to do now is introduce Mike Flathers. He's our Chief Technology Officer here at Sorensen Media to talk more about the actual solution pack architecture. Mike, and if we could get the next slide, please.
Great, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and start off here with just looking at the top left, and what you'll see here is what RightScale calls deployments, which are basically a collection of server templates. And you can see we have in a minimal viable configuration, we have a database. It's actually a minimal viable configuration consists of 4 servers, which is a master and slave set of database servers, and using RightScale's RightScale's best practices for things like backups and failover and that kind of thing. And then we have squeeze servers, and we have one squeeze server and then one Aspera server in the mix to handle the uploads. And you can see how that kind of maps down to the cloud. If you look at that, we can have 1 or more squeeze servers in there, kind of dynamically scaled up and down. And moving over to the right, we have, with the solutions pack, we have a full set of APIs built around it. And we have a set of reference applications that we're providing as well. We provide reference applications for Android, for .NET, for just web and iOS and native OS X applications as well. And then finally, once compression jobs get done with these the APIs, you can determine where you want the results sent to. We support a variety of destinations, and including FTP, Amazon S3, just basically any URI, some of the major CDNs, and of course to our Sorensen 360 platform. So I want to jump over here, I guess, at this point, and let Kirk mention a few things.
Yeah, well, as Mike demonstrated, you can see the actual architecture, and we're going to jump into the demo now and give you a better sense of, rather than just showing you slides and talking about it. Obviously, we think it's probably much more interesting just to see the actual demo in action and walk you through the content ingestion, the server scaling, talk more about the encoding profiles, and then how you can deliver it. Just to be clear, I want to mention again, all this is really deployed up on Amazon's infrastructure. They make it very simple, using their infrastructure, specifically in this case, EC2, to virtualize, our encoding server deployment. So, as an example, we can go from Aspera, where we're ingesting the content, and then you've got virtualized EC2 instances, which are providing the scaling of our encoding engine. And that's all, again, being managed by RightScale technology. And there's a lot of different ways that you can set up business logic. I want to touch on a few of these, and we'll show you more in the demo.
Kirk,
so one of the questions we get a lot. Yes?
This is Yuri speaking. We transfer the demo to you for the presentation, rather, to you for the demonstration. You need to accept it on your side so that it takes over, and you can show your screen.
Okay. So I've taken control now, so you'll probably see, just as we begin the demo here in a moment, you'll see our screen up with the RightScale console. But I want to talk about business logic for just a moment, because we get a lot of questions at Sorensen around, so help me understand, how we can scale servers up and down, because certainly that's one of the big benefits of what we've created here is this, use only what you need to use, on-demand computing. And so what we can empower is a number of different ways to auto-scale the servers. And as an example, you may find that you have peak production periods where let's say between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., you're going to need an array of servers to support the bulk of content that's been created that day. So that's one of the things that we can empower you to do with the solution pack, is just to set parameters around when you want to bring the additional servers online and for how long you want to have them online. As another example is you could set business rules around aging of files in your queue. So, for example, if you get files that are sitting for more than 5 minutes, let's say, start bringing another server online or an array of servers online. So again, this is all empowered through RightScale's technology and the solution pack. And then other things, as an example, would be around if I've got more than X number of files hitting my queue, start bringing additional servers online. So you can see where I'm going here is that based upon the flexibility that you need and the business logic that you want to establish, we can empower you to start bringing up additional servers for just as long as you need them, because it's not only is important to have the scalability to bring those servers up, of course you want to be able to bring those servers down, so you're only paying for actual compute time. And that's a big part of what we've done here. Again, you could go out and build this environment yourself, but our point is, why bother? We've taken care of all the hard work and complexity. We've provided a single solution so that you can get up and running and deployed faster. And so with that, I want to hand it over to Mike. Mike, the screens, we've already taken control, so we can jump into our demo portion now.
Fantastic. I'm going to just quickly give an overview of what we're seeing here. This is kind of a default, if you will, look utilizing our API. We utilize our APIs to actually create this management interface. It's a real simple one. Again, you have full control over your server farms, and you could create your own interface, or you could just use our interface. This is meant to basically show some basic things, like the longest wait time you see here. This has been up for a little while, and so the longest queue time since it's been up is 24 minutes here. But you can see we have one server deployed here, and again, during this demo, we'll show you kind of bringing servers up and down here. So we have a kind of a farm waiting in the wings, if you will, to take control when more encoding prowess is needed. I've configured this particular one to bring up a maximum of 5 servers. So what you'll see is as we start taking on jobs, servers come up, and then as jobs start leaving the queue, servers kind of coming down as well. And excuse me. Let's just kind of jump through a few of the items here. So you can see we can look at the number of jobs in the queue, the active file uploads that are going on, any additional servers. Again, we just have one right now. We have a default interface, web interface to actually upload new videos. We won't spend much time here, but we have a variety of ways to ingest content in here. Then we can also monitor the queue as well. So right now we don't have any jobs in the queue. And then if we go down to the applications area, you can see here that we have available, for download, the OS X client, the Android client, .NET, clients, excuse me, as well as iOS clients as well.
And Mike, just a question for you from an API standpoint. So I know we're sort of demonstrating here what we've built out, but are there other things that you could do if you wanted to have additional granularity in terms of monitoring and such beyond, what people are seeing here?
Yeah. There's a full. The API set is very, very rich. You have full control over historical data as well as what's currently going on in the system down to a pretty granular level. So, and you can do things like you can pause servers programmatically if you choose to as well, or even manually if you choose to. You can get very detailed statistics about what's happened and what is happening at the current time as well. So then, if we look down here, there's just some more info here that we can take a look at. And you can peruse. There's some developer information that we have here. So so with that, let's go ahead. Got some client ready to actually start ingesting some jobs here. So we're gonna kind of fire that off.
And just to be clear, Mike, another question for you, just for the benefit of the audience, because I see some questions coming in. We're providing all of the reference applications. We provide all access to the APIs as part of the solution pack, correct?
That is correct. We provide source code. For all of the reference applications as well.
Okay.
Okay. So.
And anything about the APIs that might be helpful for our audience in terms of types of APIs?
Yeah. So we again with the mobile applications, of course, you would see with Android it's going to be Java code. For iOS it's going to be Objective-C code, and also we actually have you may have noticed on an architecture slide that we have Aspera fast technology actually built into the iPhone application as well. So that iPhone app can actually take advantage of it as well, of fast as well. So you can see here that we have a bunch of jobs, kind of coming into the queue and currently in the queue. If we go ahead and we look at monitoring the queue here, you'll see that this one server we have in the mix is actually taking on a job. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is how Squeeze server is built for efficiency. It's not just good enough to kind of have a serial encode process, encoded workflow process, because as we all know, it starts out by actually getting a job and uploading a file into the encoding workflow, and then possibly downloading that file, onto the server that needs to do the compression, and then do the encoding and then deliver it. Well, we have built in a lot of features in the Squeeze server to take advantage of background processing, multi-threading, and that kind of thing. So we are actually ingesting new content into the system as as jobs are being compressed. Our goal, of course, is to keep that CPU as busy as possible and compressing as much. Now, one interesting thing you'll notice here is that this particular server has actually picked up 2 jobs, which leads to another point. We kind of look at the hardware, we look at the number of cores, we look at memory, we look at all kinds of parameters to determine how many jobs the server can actually take on. So in this case, this server is a kind of a medium-sized server. It's taken on a couple of jobs here.
But we could, we're not bound by the type of, Amazon instance, meaning, right, we can, if you need more throughput, you can use basically any type of instance that Amazon supports today.
That's correct. That's absolutely right. So, we've, in fact, the servers that you'll see here kind of in the mix are kind of configured for a variety of server types. So, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click, add a new server. Now, for the purpose of this demo, we don't really have the time to kind of wait for events to happen that would cause, a compression job, or compressed servers to fire off automatically. This is all automated. I think, Kirk talked about some of the things like queue wait time, time between certain hours. You can bring up, more encoding prowess, number of jobs in queue, up to that maximum threshold. Now, and like I said, we've got a maximum of 5 here, servers here. But let's just go ahead and add a new server. For the purpose of the demo, I've added a button here to actually allow us, or a link to allow us to add a new server. So I'm going to click that, and you should, in a second here, you should see another server, pop into the mix. There it is. We have a new server here, and now if you look at the queue, we should see that server. In fact, we do start picking up jobs, right? So that's all, well and good. And as you can see, these files are a variety of sizes. The ones that are being encoded, ranging from probably about 15 megs in size up to about 100 megs in size. So kind of average size files. So so we're plugging along here, but it might take a while to finish these jobs. So let's go ahead and I'm going to click here. Let's just add the maximum number of servers here. And so I'm going to click that, and you'll notice what will happen here is you'll start seeing some of the servers coming into play and start taking on more of those jobs. So it's just kind of wait a second for them to start kicking in. And in fact, we see that we have the 5 servers here. And if we, excuse me, go here and monitor the queue, you can see they are all starting to pick up servers. So with that, the server farm is kind of the servers as they come online. They actually are an active participant in the server farm and immediately start assisting in pulling these jobs. So that kind of wraps up the demo part here.
So I have a couple of questions just for the benefit of the audience, because we really demonstrated here that we're making this as simple as possible to get deployed. Obviously, you're showing manual adding servers in the queue, and we talked about programmatic. But I want to just touch on the encoding profiles and how we can support new formats, or just a wide range of formats for different encoding outputs. So how do we facilitate the process of, let's say I want to encode to an MPEG-4, an H.264 file. How do we set up an encoding profile as part of the solution pack?
That's actually a good point. We've had our Squeeze product for a long time, as many of you know, and one of the advantages that we have is the ability to actually share presets with Squeeze itself. So you can actually take your favorite presets and you take your favorite presets and have those and use those with Squeeze Server. So with Squeeze Server, you can actually upload them. We have something called the Preset Exchange, in which you can grab new presets from, and which allows users to share them. And then in addition, we're actually working on some things with some preset packs that we're starting to create that allow us that are kind of like collections of presets for different chipsets and devices and that kind of thing. So you'll see more about that in the near future.
So from an API standpoint, it's just a simple import into the Squeeze engine, exactly the encoding profile that you support. Can we encode to multiple output formats concurrently, or?
Yeah. So we actually have the ability to. I mentioned a little bit about how we're architected and taking advantage of the power that any individual server has, and that goes down to the codec level as well. So some codecs we can efficiently multi-thread, others we can't. Ones that we can certainly carry on concurrent encodes and that kind of thing. So we really try and maximize everything. And we can handle. We're kind of the Swiss Army knife, as you know, of encoding, in that we'll take just about anything in and put just about anything out. In fact, we hear all the time that Squeeze is used as a backup for just about any encoding job using many other encoding platforms as well. So we're kind of known as the ones who can actually get any hard job done.
And so once we ingest, we're coming in via Xpera again, just for the benefit of those on the webinar today. We're ingesting files, and the servers are programmatically scaling up and down to support the load of files coming in, depending upon whatever business rules you set up. And then via the APIs, as you showed earlier in the architecture, we can push out to multiple destinations. Is that a fairly straightforward? I mean, you mentioned Amazon, S3 for storage, CDNs. Can we go to all of those concurrently?
Yeah, we can. We can basically in a single preset can contain multiple output destinations. And since you kind of touched on it a little bit, we have the ability also to do adaptive as well. So we'll not only produce those adaptive files, but we'll actually push them in a package, if you will, to the location of your choice.
Great. Perfect. Well, thanks for the demo and some clarification there. And I guess if we could just pull up the next slide, I'm just trying to be mindful of time, and that I know we haven't even gotten to the questions that are coming in. I think we've been answering some of those as we go along. Let's just pull up our last slide here, and then we'll get into the Q&A, because I see a lot of great questions coming in.
Yeah, and I just you can see on your screen here these jobs starting to be that are being taken here. So just going to get you to this slide here.
Okay. So again, just to wrap up, really hopefully what you take from this is that there are a lot of devices, and all those devices mean that more video renditions are having to be created. So all these formats mean more decisions, means you have to think about, how you're going to support the needs to deliver that content across all the different places that you're trying to support. And encoding is certainly accelerating. It's not declining. There's just more and more devices every day. One size definitely does not fit all. If you want to do it right, you want to deliver high quality, you need to support a lot of different encoding outputs. So hopefully what you've seen here is encoding in the cloud, what you're really able to provide is just that on-demand service. So you've got the scalability that you need. You can adapt quickly to support your new devices, new formats, and really future-proof your solution around video, and eliminate the need to invest in hardware and software installed on that hardware and resources to support, quite frankly, what is this evolving, growing, spiky world around video encoding. And so certainly appreciate the time. Hope you found the demonstration to be helpful. And what we'd like to do is just jump into Q&A. And I've seen a lot of questions coming in. I'll take a couple of these, and then I'll turn it over to our partners.
And then, Kirk, I'm gonna bring up, while we're in Q&A, I'm gonna just bring up the the console again, and you'll be able to take a look at it, and you'll be able to see the jobs keep going down, and you'll be able to see servers start dropping off as well.
Okay, very good. So I know we've had a lot of questions around the just APIs and people wanting to know, are we just providing a front end or the APIs? I think we've addressed that, but to be clear, we're giving you this console so you can monitor jobs, but as Mike mentioned, there's a lot more granularity that if you want to take the APIs that are provided with the solution pack and really plug that into your own front end or build out your own console with a lot more granularity around jobs, what's in the queue, monitoring, et cetera, that's all possible with the APIs that we provide in the solution pack. And we certainly had some questions around source file formats that are sent to the servers for encoding, things around where the content lands. And so I just want to touch on that. As Mike highlighted a minute ago, we really are pretty Swiss when it comes to input formats and output formats. We're agnostic, all the commonly used formats we're going to be able to support for ingest. And the same thing on output formats. We really try to support a broad range of output formats. And so we do partner and we do license codecs, really best-of-breed codecs, optimize those, and provide a lot of capabilities around pre-processing, all of our filters, around deinterlacing, just improving the picture quality for the end compressed file. We can certainly encode audio as well as video. That's not a problem for us. As it relates to scalability of the servers, again, it's virtually unlimited. So sort of regardless of the volume of content that you need to get transcoded, the real benefit of what we've built together in partnership with Aspera and RightScale is, of course, the ability to quickly get all those files up into the cloud and then scale up programmatically the number of servers that are needed to support the transcoding to all the different output formats that you need to support. And we do provide a lot of flexibility there. So I'll hand it over to Yuri and RightScale. I know he's got a lot of questions coming in as well.
Thank you, Kirk. By the way, as a time check, I see we're getting close to the top of the hour, but we have quite a few questions. So for those of you that want to stay in the webinar with us, we're happy to continue answering questions. So happy to go past the allotted time. And also just want to remind, actually more than a reminder, I want to let everybody know this webinar is being recorded so everybody can get a copy of the file later for review and to share with other people as well. So there'll be more information on that. So now I'm actually going to combine two questions, but let me state them. No mention of AWS yet. This was earlier in the presentation because we did mention it later. No mention of Amazon Web Services yet. How are they part of the ecosystem here? And I have another related one. So RightScale uses AWS cloud servers, correct? Yeah, let me actually answer that in a bigger picture way. Think of RightScale as the orchestration layer that you use to stand up an environment with an Aspera server. That's the main point of ingest and egest for all those files. A collection of squeeze servers from Sorensen, and the number of services can scale up or down based on the business rules you give it, as you saw Mike Flathers demonstrating. You give it rules as to how fast you want to crunch those jobs waiting on a queue, and some databases you also need running to make all this stuff work. So RightScale is the software that makes all that work together on Amazon EC2 servers, Elastic Compute Cloud servers. That's really how it all comes together. So instead of somebody having to license software from Sorensen and from Aspera, from RightScale, doing this whole systems integration job themselves, we turned it into pretty much a turnkey process so somebody can stand up this really enterprise class type of video encoding environment without needing to be experts at all these different things that collectively us four companies are. So I'll pass the next question back to Sorensen.
Okay, great. Just one of the things you're probably looking at the screen, as you can see, because we've had a lot of questions coming in around, am I paying just for the compute time, and how are servers coming up and down? And hopefully you can see that on the screen that, as those jobs are being finished, those servers are coming back down. So that the answer to that question is that's exactly what we built the solution pack in mind for, is the spiky nature of encoding, because it's very important that not only you have the scalability to bring those servers up, but of course when you're done encoding, you want to be able to have those servers shut down. That way you're just paying for the time that you need those servers up and running to support your encoding project. So yes, it's an on-demand model. It's your traditional software as a service model where you're licensing the Solution Pack platform in partnership with Aspera, RightScale, Sorensen, and Amazon Web Services. We can bundle everything into one platform, provide you with a single point of contact, help you get up and running through the deployment process, provide some consultation around encoding profiles that you need to support the different devices, environments that you want to deliver content to, and we just try to make it really, really so that we can get you up and running quickly and deploy with the Solution Pack and just pay for what you need to pay for in terms of encoding time.
Hey, Kirk, I have a question here that kind of dovetails into what you were saying, so let me jump in with the next one. Actually, two questions. I'm going to read both because they kind of fit together. First question is, who is the single point of contact here for establishing this, Sorensen or RightScale? And the second question is, what's the business model? One bill from RightScale or Sorensen, multiple relationships with Amazon, RightScale, Aspera, Sorensen. So it's really just one thing to buy. In this case, the contract you would sign is with RightScale. One thing to buy, one price. We all stand together for tech support purposes behind a solution that we created and built together. So as Kirk was saying a moment ago, we make it very straightforward so you don't have to cobble all these pieces together. Is come to RightScale. There's a lot of pre-buying decisions where we bring in Aspera and Sorensen experts to address whatever questions we need to buy, but really we simplify the relationship part of this thing. I'm sure everybody on the call is not thinking, well, so how much does it cost? Depends on the compute power and capacity that you need. So we're very happy if you see the screen information there on who to contact to engage you in a one-to-one conversation so we can easily price this. And by the way, something I think I skipped when I was combining all the names. I'm talking about including also the Amazon server fee, so you can actually just have the one invoice from RightScale that includes all the resources and software licensing that you need for your video encoding needs. And back to you, Kirk.
Well, I think I've seen a couple of questions coming in for Steve at Aspera. So Steve, I'll let you, I know you've got a number of questions about your technology.
Yeah, I can bring up a few points on that. One of the questions that came through is what are the minimum bandwidth requirements? And of course there is no particular minimum bandwidth requirement. Whatever you have, you can take advantage of Aspera to leverage that, whether it's 1.5 megabits per second or hundreds of megabits per second. The same problems exist across the WAN where it comes to these round trip delays that basically throttle your throughput, dropped packets. We solve those problems, and it's all done in a secure fashion. Also, when you're transferring your files, if the transfer is interrupted, it can auto-resume for you, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm just looking here. I think there were a couple other questions that came up in the meantime. There was a question about running over the open internet at all times, or do you consider closed fibers onto the servers into the clouds? If I understand correctly, I'd address that by saying if you're connected to the internet all the time, and if you're connected, or if you've brought up the service, the Sorensen service on the cloud, you'll be connected as long as you're trying to transfer or move files to or from it. So it's the session begins when you start moving the files, and it's going to complete when you're done moving those. So I'll turn it back to you at this point.
Okay, great. Well, I see some other questions coming in. Let's see. I think this is one for Mike. Let's see, Mike, do you want to?
Yeah, this question is two questions about the streaming side of things. First of all, does Sorensen's Solution Pack, it says Application Pack, but Solution Pack include tools for managing streaming servers? And after that is no, the Solutions Pack itself does not. But kind of dovetailing into that, and there is a follow-on question about this, about kind of live encoding. We just announced Steve Live, and you can go on our website and check it out. And so we actually do have a live encoding solution now that's in beta. So I would encourage you to do that, and that is what you would want. And that is all to use, and that is all managed, using our same cloud management tools to manage those servers as we do for Solutions Pack.
Great. I see another one that came in was just asking, a question about how, looking to do encoding on the cloud and how does this compare to other cloud encoding services. Well, we'd like to believe that having 15 years of expertise around best practices for optimization of codecs, pre-processing, using our filtering, all the things that we do there, that what we can provide, really relative to other cloud encoding solutions is high quality and a lot of experience in, there are a lot of great services out there, and there's a wealth of experience around building out APIs to ingest content into the cloud, and then provide some scalability. Typically, what you see is a lot of the services that are out there today that are doing cloud encoding, you're kind of sharing a pool of servers. We've taken a little bit different approach. We've got the enterprise in mind here, and we provide dedicated instances to support your encoding workload, and then just give you a lot more flexibility and control over how you want to bring those servers up and down. A lot more flexibility around different encoding formats, and that's just a function of our proprietary compression engine, all the expertise we have in house, combined with Aspera and RightScale technology to bring the content via Aspera ingest into the cloud, and then scaling the servers up and down. So, we've got a lot of experience there, and believe that what we can deliver is a truly scalable, high-quality solution that just provides better performance, relative to some other solutions in the marketplace. So I think we answered this one earlier, just about web format or web front end and versus API. Again, we provide the source code and some reference applications, but certainly a full set of APIs that you can develop against. And one of the things probably worth mentioning is that we do this on a pretty regular basis for many of our implementations. Is we do have professional services, so if you don't have development resources on hand, we can certainly work with you and help take the APIs that we provide and offer those development resources to integrate into your existing workflows.
And just to touch just slightly deeper on the APIs, those APIs are all RESTful APIs. They're all REST-based. And like we talked about, the reference applications that are there provide some examples in different languages to show you how you might consume those REST-based interfaces. But they are all web RESTful APIs.
So let me jump in here with a question. This is Yuri from RightScale. I have a question that says, can I run this in another cloud besides Amazon Web Services or EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud? The answer is yes. So for example, for whoever asked that question, if you're interested in running a private cloud type of environment so you can do this within your own data center, please contact us. That's a conversation that is very much dependent on the details and exactly what you're looking for, but we have the capability to address that as well. So that's something we like to discuss with you. So next question from Sorensen, please.
And that for Sorensen. Okay, I saw a question come in about quality control, and I think that was meant for Sorensen, so I'll jump in. We're big believers in not dictating the workflow and trying to be as agnostic as possible from a workflow perspective. So I think when someone was asking about quality control, my guess is they were referring to just the quality, the QC checks and video encoding, and that's where we partner. We don't believe one size fits all. And so if you've got a particular solution in mind, that's just a step in the process. And we'd like to talk to you more about what sort of QC you have in mind. And if you don't have anything in mind, we can certainly make some recommendations based upon our partnerships.
And then the same thing goes for DRM. I saw a question come in about that. We are DRM agnostic, and we have integration that we're working on with all of the major DRMs that are out there, including Kurt mentioned our professional services and some custom work. We've done some custom work for customers where both ends of the encoding workflow are proprietary, if you will. So we've built out players that are proprietary, as well as being able to store the video in such a format that it's not playable should someone get a hold of it, from a file download or capturing it. So we kind of have that. We're big believers, like Kirk said, in being an even player there. Just like we have with our codec, our formats, we feel the same way about QC and DRM.
I'm going to jump in here with a question. This is Yuri from RightScale. How big is cloud encoding? How many servers do you think are being used for encoding in the cloud? This feels more like a industry sizing question. It's hard to pin it down to, of the servers, how many are doing video encoding, but just to give people a sense of what's possible, actually what's routine for us. It wouldn't be rare to have a customer that's running many dozens of servers, hundreds, even in the thousands for any particular group of servers that can scale out in a rather massive way. So if there's somebody out there that's looking at some really kind of Herculean video encoding effort, this is not something that is impossible for us to tackle, by the way. I was using examples earlier today of RightScale being used to manage servers for Facebook games that have tens of millions of daily active users. These are huge environments. And from the perspective of managing the servers that are doing video encoding, this is something that we can do in large scales.
Yeah, Yuri, I'm going to jump in. This is Kirk. I saw a question come in, and this is a really good one because this is one we hear pretty regularly, and I want to do my best to answer. The gist of the question was, can you help me understand how many servers I would need? And it's really a sizing question. And so this is where my recommendation is for anyone who's still on the calls. If you've got specific questions around, and we hear this all the time, how quickly will my jobs be processed? How many servers do I need? That's a big part of what we do is the consultation to walk through. And it's really a sizing question. What we need to do is just better understand the type of source content that you have and all the different output formats that you want to be able to support. And we can certainly give you some guidance on what we'd recommend for number of renditions that you would want to create based upon different screens that you're trying to deliver content to. If we can understand better about your source content and the frequency of that source content, we can give you a sense of how many servers you might need. Again, the benefit of the solution pack is just the auto scaling in that you can get as many servers as you need for as long as you need them. But we this is a question that we can walk you through and spend some time just understanding your environment and giving you some feedback and sharing some best practices there as well.
There's one other question here, and I know we've got to wrap up fairly soon, but this question was for Sorensen, and it says, we develop our content locally. Can we drop our content to an FTP server via your API? Get that will your API get that content, encode it, publish it to our CDN, then execute a custom URL? So the answer to that is yes to all of the above. We've actually, for a lot of people, we've created the concept of watch folders through the API. Of course, Squeeze supports it as well. Squeeze Server natively supports watch folders now also, but you can do a custom thing as well where you could put something on your FTP server. Squeeze Server can pull from an FTP site. I went over this a little bit earlier, but FTP and S3 URL, it can basically pull from anywhere that is web accessible, and then ingest that through the encode engine, and then publish. And in fact, once the published job is complete, you do have the ability to specify a callback URL that will then be called, letting you know the job is complete along with the job information.
So I have a question here. Do you have people in support in Europe as well? Yes, we do. We have people that cover the UK and the continent. So for the person that has that question, please contact us and we'll put you in touch with somebody in a more friendly time zone so you can easily speak to them on the phone. So Kirk, do you have any of the questions you want to address? If not, I'm going to wrap it up.
Well, I just see that we're 15 minutes after the hour, and I see some questions that have been pretty similar to other ones we've answered. So I think we've hit all the highlights on our end from the Sorensen side.
So thank you everyone for attending the webinar today. I would like to mention one more time that This was recorded and it will be available in our website. And you are more than welcome to come and download it and also to forward it to anybody else in your companies that you think might be interested in knowing the information. And one more time, I would say we're very happy to answer any and all technical questions. This is really what makes it interesting for all of us to figure out if and how we can help you achieve your goals in video encoding. So do not hesitate to contact us, and we look forward to speaking with you. Thank you very much. This brings the webinar to its conclusion.